Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got this beautiful Mercedes-Benz C200 in the shop, but it's here for one big problem: orange peel in the clear coat. Now, a lot of people think orange peel just happens because you're a beginner, or maybe because of the paint brand. But honestly, that's only part of the story. Most of the time, it comes down to three simple mistakes that even experienced painters still make. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what those mistakes are, so you can avoid them and get that flat, glass-like finish every single time. We'll start by showing you how this car's clear coat turned out. I'll point out the texture issues, and then we'll break it down step by step, from gun setup to spraying technique, and even how temperature plays a huge role. So if you've ever sprayed clear, stepped back, and thought, why does it look bumpy like an orange peel instead of smooth? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to fix it. Let's get started. All right, so we're ready to lay down our very first base coat on this Mercedes C200. Now, before I even pull the trigger, let me just stress this. Most orange peel problems start right here, from the very first coat. That's because the texture you build in your base will usually telegraph straight through to your clear. So I've already set up the gun. For this metallic base, I'm running at about 2 bar of pressure. That's roughly 29 psi, with the fan wide open. The fluid is dialed in so I'm not flooding it, but still getting full, even coverage. Now as I start spraying, watch my distance closely. I'm keeping it roughly 15 to 17 centimeters off the panel. That's about 6 inches. Too close, and you'll overload it. Too far, and it'll start drying before it even hits the panel, creating that dry, dusty texture, which only gets worse under clear. I'm moving at a moderate pace, not rushing, not creeping, letting the paint naturally lay down and flow out. Each pass is overlapping the last by about 70%, which is really important to avoid tiger stripes and uneven buildup. Now look at this. I'm holding the gun perfectly perpendicular to the panel. If you start tilting it, the edges of the fan get heavier, and you'll have inconsistent texture that later becomes orange peel. That's mistake number one people make: poor gun angle. Next, notice how I always spray past the edge before stopping. Never start or stop right on the panel. That's how you get blotches and heavy spots. Between each pass, I'm taking a quick glance at the surface. If I see any dry patches or heavy wet spots, I adjust right away. This is where most guys go wrong. They don't watch what the paint is doing in real time, then wonder later why the clear looks bumpy. All right, that's the first pass done. You can already see it's nice and uniform, even though it's just a base coat. I'll give this a few minutes to flash off, usually until it's dull and matte, then come back for the second coat. Remember, orange peel prevention starts right here, with how you lay down your base. Smooth base, smooth clear. We'll keep building it up in the next coats, and I'll keep pointing out what to watch for so we don't run into texture problems later. All right, so we've let that first coat flash off nicely. It's looking nice and matte, meaning it's ready for the next stage. Now, before we move on, I'm going to take a tack cloth and just lightly go over the entire surface. This will pick up any little dust particles or tiny overspray bits that might have settled while we were waiting. You don't want to press hard, just a gentle wipe to keep the surface super clean. Because remember, anything that's sitting on this panel right now will get buried under the next coat, and that's how you end up with tiny bumps that look like orange peel or dirt nibs later on. Now we're ready for our second base coat pass. This one's important because it's going to even out the color and build up proper coverage, especially for this metallic on the Mercedes. I'm spraying it just like the first, same gun settings, same distance, about 6 inches off the panel, moving at a steady, consistent pace. Overlap is still about 70%, so I'm covering each line fully and avoiding stripes. What I'm really watching here is how the metallic lays. I don't want it to pile up in some areas and look patchy in others. I'm also keeping the gun moving smoothly. No hesitations, no stopping mid-panel. That's another big mistake that can cause texture. By the time I finish this pass, I'll have a nice, uniform, slightly wetter-looking surface, which is exactly what you want. It shouldn't be soaked in running, but you also don't want it too dry. That's where orange peel starts to creep in. All right, we'll let this flash off just like before, and then it'll be ready for the next stage. Okay, now we're going to let that second base coat flash off, It's already flashed off nicely. As you can see, the metallic white is looking nice and even, just how we want it before clear. Now we're going to go ahead and mix up our clear coat. So let it sit there, let it do its thing while we get our clear ready. That's going to give us the best chance at a slick, smooth finish without orange peel. All right, so we've got our clear coat all mixed up and strained, and we're ready to start laying down our first pass. This is probably the most critical stage in avoiding orange peel, because clear is a lot thicker than base coat. And if you mess up here, that texture is locked in. So before I even start spraying, I'm double checking my gun settings. I'm still at about 2 bar or 29 PSI, fan wide open, and I've opened the fluid just a touch more than I did for base. That's going to help the clear flow out a bit better, especially on this big flat panels like the bonnet and doors. Now watch this. As I start my first pass, I'm keeping the gun at the same 6 inches off the panel, nice and consistent. I don't want to get too close and flood it, but I also don't want to drift too far and get that dry spray, which turns into orange peel or even rough sandy texture. I'm moving at a steady pace, just a little slower than I did for base coat, because clear needs time to level out and flow. Overlap is still around 70%, and you'll notice how I'm not racing through it. Let the clear build evenly. Rushing is the easiest way to end up with uneven texture. Now, another big thing. Keep that gun perfectly perpendicular to the panel. If you start tilting it or waving your wrist, you'll end up with heavy edges and light centers, and that causes uneven gloss and can exaggerate orange peel. I'm also watching the surface as I go. The clear should look wet and glossy right behind the gun, but not so heavy that it starts running. If it looks dry or pebbly immediately, that means I'm either moving too fast, too far away, or maybe my air pressure is too high, causing it to atomize too fine and dry before it hits. As I finish this first pass, I'll give it a minute to settle. You'll often see the clear continue to level out for a few seconds after spraying. That's exactly what you want. It's starting to look slick, but it's only our first coat. We'll let this flash off, usually about 8 to 10 minutes, depending on temp, until it's just tacky to the touch. Then we'll be ready for our second, wetter flow coat. Alright, it's flashed off perfectly, it's tacky, not stringy, and that means we're ready for our second coat. This time I'm going just a little bit wetter, slowing down my pass slightly to let that clear really level out and build more gloss. Still about 6 inches off the panel, same overlap around 70%, but you can see it's laying down even smoother than the first. I'm watching closely for any signs of sagging or runs. If it starts to build too heavy in one spot, I'll adjust my speed or distance right there on the fly. That's how you keep it consistent. Now after that second coat has flashed, I'm coming in with a third and final pass. This is basically a medium wet coat, just enough to really lock in that deep gloss and help everything melt together. Same technique, steady pace, gun perfectly perpendicular, watching how it lays down wet. By the end of this, we've got a rich, glassy finish, and most importantly, we've avoided any of that heavy orange peel texture.